Hey guys, today I'm going to be reviewing the graphic novel series Avatar The Last Airbender, The Search Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3 by Jean Luen Yang. So, are you a fan of the Avatar The Last Airbender animated series that aired on Nickelodeon? If you are, then you might really love this graphic novel series called The Search. The Search is a three-part series that takes place about a year after the events that occurred in the animated series. Wanting to better unite his kingdom, Zuko thinks it's his job to make amends with his sister Azula and his father Ozai. But the number one thing that Zuko wants the most is to discover the whereabouts of his mother. Azula reveals that she has evidence that proves where their mother is located, and she agrees to join Zuko on this quest. Joining Zuko and Azula is the Avatar himself, Aang, and his friends Katara and her brother Sokka. The group heads out, and of course, danger lurks everywhere. And in the meantime, Zuko learns some shocking revelations. Before I get going with this review, I think I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm going to have spoilers from the actual show in some ways. I mean, if you've not seen the show, like all 3 seasons of the show, then this review obviously is going to make no sense to you. Or if you've only seen like the first 1 or 2 seasons, then other things are going to be spoilers to you. So if you've seen the entirety of the show, then I suggest you continue watching. I'm going to kind of have a non-spoilery section that just deals with my general feelings about these books in this series. And then I'll have a spoilery part right at the end, where I'm kind of discussing more of the deeper themes within these books. So to start off with, I really loved this series. I think it kept very much in line with kind of the tone and the atmosphere and the mood of the television series. The dialogue is still very much the same. I love the panels in this. There's just some really beautiful artwork in this. I mean, geez, these covers alone are just beautiful enough. And I also think the characters are very much like how they were in the animated series as well. I don't think there's any startling contrasts from the screen to the page. Sokka still has all of his great wits, and he's still very much the comedic presence in this series. Zuko is still very brooding. Azula is very much a megalomaniac. And yes, the Aang and Katara relationship is still in here, sadly. You guys, I hated Aang and Katara in the television series. And there's little subtle things in this that happen, and they kiss a couple times, and it's all sweet and cutesy, and it's like, no, stop. So the television series was obviously called Avatar The Last Airbender, but this 3-part series is actually not focused on Aang at all. It is very much focused on Zuko and Azula and their relationship and their quest to find their mother. One of the big themes in this 3-part series that I particularly enjoyed was this theme of sibling love and sibling rivalry and the things that one does for one's siblings. There's this really great part in the Search Part 1 where Katara is sleeping and Sokka goes over and puts a blanket on top of her. And Zuko sees that, and he sees that Azula is off to the side, cold and shivering, and he goes to put a blanket on her. So I love these parallels. That's one of the biggest things in here is kind of Katara and Sokka versus Zuko and Azula. Because Katara and Sokka have this very normal relationship, I guess is the best way to put it. They have their bickering and their arguing, but they get along ultimately. Whereas you have Zuko and Azula on the other side who downright hate each other, and they just kind of want to see each other's demise. And Azula wants to have nothing to do with Zuko in some ways, whereas Zuko really wants to help Azula, but she's the one who doesn't want his help. Overall, this series was truly fantastic. I think this series is actually a very controversial one. I've been on Goodreads and I've seen a lot of kind of varying opinions. There's the people who really love the series and the people who just they were like, this is blasphemous. So I'm not sure how to recommend the book, because I do recommend the series for fans of the animated series. But other than that, I don't know how to go about it, because you are either going to be the type of reader who enjoys the series, or you're going to absolutely hate it. I, for one, really enjoyed it. Each book has a really great plot from start to finish, and just within this series of books itself, you have a beginning, middle, and the end. I will say though that book 3, you do get this excellent build up in books 1 and 2, and book 3 I think does kind of end very quickly all of a sudden. Everything kind of gets resolved, you get questions answered, and then everything's kind of like, oh, it's over. The big thing about this series that I took away is the fact that I just got to spend time with these characters, because I truly missed these characters now that the show is gone. And before I get to the spoilery parts, I'm going to say that I think I found out that this trilogy here was originally supposed to be maybe kind of a mini-series on Nickelodeon. The creators wanted to do another kind of little mini-series, but Nickelodeon was all like, nah. And I think that's ridiculous, because I think I would have much preferred to see this series of books turned into, you know, the animated show, rather than reading about it. Because I do take issue with some things in this series, and I think I would have handled some of the things that happened in these books a lot better had I, like, visually seen them playing out. And accepted that more as canon, I guess. So on to the spoilery part about this series. So turn off, turn away if you do not want to hear any of this. So the big thing that is revealed in this trilogy is the fact that Ozai might not be Zuko's biological father. Book 1 opens up with Ursa, Zuko and Azula's mother. It opens up with Ursa and her flirtation with this guy named Akeem, and the fact that they try to get engaged, but then Ozai kind of pops into the picture. Before Ursa was banished, she wrote letters to Akeem, I guess it was, and Ozai kind of intercepted these letters, and in them, Ursa reveals that Akeem is actually Zuko's father, and of course this infuriates Ozai. So Ozai keeps all these letters, and it's one of these letters that Azula manages to get her hands on. And this same letter Zuko finds too at some point, and he finds out that Ozai is not his dad. And the big thing is that I guess Azula is trying to use this to her advantage, because, you know, back in season 3, Azula wanted to be the Fire Lord. So she's going to use all of this to kind of blackmail Zuko. But little does she expect that Zuko himself begins to have these doubts about his own leadership and his ability to rule the Fire Nation. So in some ways, Ursa's letters kind of give Zuko this push to think, you know what, this is an excuse for me to give up my throne. So that's kind of this big running thing in the books, is that Zuko needs to believe in himself and believe that he can rule this nation, whether or not he's actually the true heir or not. And that's what Aang is constantly pushing in these books. Aang is saying, you know, you can't give up this throne, especially to Azula. The Fire Nation needs you, Zuko. You are the right person to rule. And Zuko does, by the end of the story, realize, you know what, I believe in myself, and I believe that I can rule this nation. And you know what, it turns out anyway that Ursa purposely wrote those letters knowing that Ozai was intercepting them, and she lied. So there's this, you get this thing at the beginning, like, oh my god, Zuko is not really Ozai's son. And then by the end of the novel, it just happens so quickly, and it's like, oh wait, you are Ozai's son, I was just lying. And to be honest, I was quite relieved that Zuko turned out to really be Ozai's son, because had Akeem actually been Zuko's dad, I really think this would have just kind of messed up how I viewed the entirety of the animated series. And I was just having trouble accepting that these books are part of the canon now. So the one good thing that came out of this entire trilogy is the fact that it pushed Zuko to believe in himself and to further develop his character. And you guys, I can't wait to see another series. Azula totally just loses it at the end of this book. She goes absolutely berserk. And she runs off into this forest. I think this forest is called like the Unforgetful Valley or something. But anyway, there's like this woman in the forest, the spirit who can replace people's faces. And that's basically kind of how they solve everything with Ursa. Ursa kind of got a facelift, basically. And she gets her memory wiped. And that's how she's kind of hiding out in this other village. But anyway, Azula goes off into this forest, and I'm anticipating some things, because now that we know Ursa could, like, get a facelift, Azula can easily get a facelift and come back in another little trilogy of books and wreak some havoc. So that'll probably be a really good series that I'll really want to read. So yeah guys, I guess that's it for this review. I really hope you enjoy. Like I said, if you like the animated series, then this trilogy, this search, is a must for you, whether you love it or hate it. If you've read the series, please let me know. So that's it guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.